Today in the computer lab, also known as my kitchen, we are going to be taking apart a computer. I'm here with my assistant Drama, and he's going to help me along the way. Usually when you start with a computer, first thing you've got to think about is our safety and how to protect yourself while we are taking it apart. There's only two main things you've got to worry about. One, it's really dirty inside your computer, so when you're done, you need to wash your hands so that you don't contract any of that dust and old dirt into your body. And then two, the power supply, which is usually housed in this unit up here, you need to make sure you don't take that part apart because it tends to have stored up energy in it, and you don't want to shock yourself or get electrocuted in any way. So there's stored up energy in your power supply. The rest of it, you're pretty much okay. So some computers come apart really easy. They don't even need screws. This one has two screws on the side to remove the case panel. Okay, and that just slides out like so. And you can put that aside. You don't really need that for now. And if you turn the computer, you can start to see the inside of it. Now, to dissect it or sort of identify the parts, you tend to look at what you know. So if you start from the front, you can see up front there's a DVD-ROM and a CD burner. If you look along the side, you can see that this is where your DVD-ROM and your CD burner are. You can also see the floppy drive, which is right here. And then when you turn the computer, you can see it coming through here. And if you look, there's actually a bunch of cables attached to these. Now for each device, it needs two types of cables. One is your power cable, which if you look, it's a red, yellow, and black cable. And if you follow those, it takes you inside, back to a mess of cables right here, connected to the power supply. So I'm just removing all of those red and black cables from the devices that I identified, the CD-ROM drives, the DVD drive, and the floppy drive. And then there's also bigger cables. These are kind of like ribbons. In most computers they are ribbons. In newer computers they're a lot smaller. But this is what transfers all the data from the device to other areas of the computer. And you can also disconnect those at this point. Okay, and they just come down. You can see they connect to the motherboard in this case, and your motherboard is the big panel in the back. This one's red. It's all the circuitry is going on there, and so they're also green in most cases, green or blue. So these cables connect to the motherboard, and think of your motherboard as like the nervous system that connects all the devices. So the motherboard has all of the wires, connects everything together so that everything can communicate with each other. Now every computer is a little different in terms of how you get the CD-ROM drives and the disk drives out. Some of them require screws, others just pop out. Some of them require that you remove the front panel, like so. Lots and lots of dust in this computer. And then others, they will just slide out. And this one's going to need to be unscrewed first. See? This one, once I've done one screw. Here we've got the DVD-ROM. There you go, kitty. Here we've got the CD-ROM, RW, burner, and everything. And here we have the floppy drive. And on the same side here now, you notice there's one device left, right here. That device is your hard drive, and that's where all of the data on your computer is stored. So you notice that this one requires a power cord as well, and it also has a data cable. So the data cable can be removed, and that also connects to the motherboard and transfers all the data from your hard drive to the rest of the devices. And the hard drive is usually pretty securely fastened as well, so it can be removed with some screws. I did it this way. So here's the hard drive. I'm going to just leave it in the casing. Different computer cases have different brackets to hold it into. And that's the hard drive. That holds all your data. Going a little further now, we've looked from the front side and taken all the pieces off on the front side. If we look at the back side here, we can see some of the pieces that are connected. If I look at the back, first thing I'm going to look at is, if you're familiar with how you plug your computer together, you've got two things that would plug here. Usually, this blue port indicates the computer monitor, and this one here is for your internet, your Ethernet card. And so if you look and you flip them over, you can see that these two green cards here represent your video card and your Ethernet adapter. So we can just, one screw comes out here. Like so, and each of those cards just pull out of their socket. Sometimes they've been in there a while, you gotta be careful, and sometimes there is actually a release at the back of the port here, for video cards especially. So you have to release that to be able to pull it out. And here's our video card, and then the Ethernet cards. Most of the newer ones now are built right into the motherboard, but this one's an outside, or sorry, one that fits into the slots, the expansion slots. So if we're looking inside now, we can start to get a better view of the motherboard. Just trying to slide it here. These white slots we have here are your PCI slots, and those are for all of your Ethernet adapters, your sometimes video card, your sound cards, if you have TV capture cards or extra USB cards, anything like that. They would all go in these, and when you're buying a computer, it's always nice to have lots of them. The other slot is sometimes an AGP, sometimes a PCI Express slot, and that's dedicated specifically for your video card. Up here, following, you can see that the computer also, the motherboard also needs its own power supply, and it has all this crazy things. That's for all different voltages and power, so that can be unplugged as well. And if you're looking, there's these two cards here. Some people have one, some people have two, some people have three or four. Usually, these cards are your RAM, and that refers to random access memory. Now, the random access memory is used to bring programs and files close to your computer processor so that it can access them really quickly. So when you open a program, it copies all of the files of that program that it needs into the RAM, and then it makes it close to the processor. The more RAM you have, the more programs you can run easily at the same time without slowing down your computer. Sometimes when your computer is running slower, people would recommend that you buy more RAM, and that would enable you to run more things on your computer. And it's a really easy install for anyone. You can pretty much do it yourself. You just put the RAM cards in. There's only one way they fit. I'm not going to take this last bit apart. The reason I'm not going to take it apart is they can sometimes be static sensitive, and that being if there's if you have built up a static shock in your hands and you go to touch that part with it out of its socket, it could damage it, and that's the processor. So that's the big brains of your computer. It's usually kept under a fan and heat sinks to keep it cool. The cooler it is, the faster it runs. So that can be taken apart here. Usually, sometimes also you have extra fans in your computer to keep the air flowing through it and keep it nice and cool. I think that's all the parts of the computer for today. I'd like to thank my assistant and my wife for loaning me her computer, which I'll let her put back together. Thanks.